Thank you for staying with us. You can see in the background, we're talking about politics, party politics, with the spotlight on the National Democratic Congress. And of course, we know ahead of that primary or that big one where they elect their flag bearer, there has been the threat of stalling the process using the justicial system, the courts. And there's a reason. It has to do with the album and certain documentation that has to be shared among the parties. Well, Team Duffour is contesting some of that. We're joined now by Antonio Edem Asinyo. He is a spokesperson for Kwabena Duffour, Dr. Kwabena Duffour. Antonio, a very good morning to you.
Hey, brother, how are you doing?
I am well. The Daily Guide this morning captures what is happening as, quote, NDC presidential polls in limbo. Duffour goes to court. I have followed this process, and I just want to know from you, explain to all of Ghana why it has come to this and what the posturing of Team Duffour is on the matter. You're going to court on this matter.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. It's simple. Dr. Duffour is a Democrat. He has been in Ghana with the financial sector, studied mathematics, being a central bank governor, with the Ghana Commercial Bank, being the finance minister, and has several businesses in this country, and a very respected member of the NDC for that matter. He has availed himself to lead a party, and as you are aware, the party has been involved in some reorganization to recapture power come 2024. The party leadership assured Dr. Duffour that he was going, not only Dr. Duffour, all aspirants, that they were going to furnish them with the photo album so we can be able to have a free, transparent and fair election. And as you are aware, the base document for every free, fair and transparent election is the voters register and as what we call photo album. That was not done. On the 17th of April, Dr. Duffour's team wrote to the party, drawing the attention to the fact that we needed the voters register in order to audit it. So we are all satisfied that going through the process, we are happy with whatever outcome that comes. Already we know the outcome. Dr. Duffour is going to win regardless. There was no response from the party, and we followed up with another letter on the 2nd of May. Again, there was no response to Dr. Duffour. So 2 letters were written to the party requesting for the said document, which was not given, and there was no official response or letter written back to Dr. Duffour. Then there was a meeting on the 4th of May, and that meeting even never referenced the letters that we sent to the party. But that meeting the party gave us some documents which we are tagged or we are calling incomplete because out of the 276 constituencies, the party gave us 220. And it's important to note at the said meeting, the party said they were giving us 228. But when we worked on the document, we identified that it was 220 constituencies. So what did we do? We quickly had to come back home because we already had the infrastructure or we built the system to be able to audit the voters register. So we didn't really take time. We were given this document on the 4th of May. By the 7th, 8th, we're done looking at it, and we identified some serious concerns. Let me take you through some of the concerns or some issues we identified in the register. We identified that 54% of the delegates in the photo album, their identities are yet to be identified. We identified again that 28% of delegates in the section list had no information at all. 2% of the names were additionally added to the register. And it's important to note that the percentage can be higher after the identities have even been verified. Again, 26% of the NDC delegates were missing from the register. We could not find them. The percentage again can be higher if the identities have been verified. Then there were duplicated photos, there were duplicated voters' IDs, unidentified persons were added onto the register, the full extent to which we really cannot speak to since we don't have the entire document. And 46% of the register cannot be validated with correct voter ID, party ID, photo, gender, polling station number, or police station code. So after identifying all this, what did Dr. Duffour's team do? We put together the documents and the evidence and attached to a letter. And in the letter, we suggested that looking at the number or the seriousness of the concerns or the irregularities with the register, it will be only prudent that the party postpones it, calls all stakeholders to a meeting, agree on a time frame for us to work or correct these anomalies. Then we can go into an election knowing that we are all satisfied with the document that is essential, the outcome. The posturing of the party is not one that gave, let me use the correct expression, individuals in the leadership of the party did not give the correct posture. Says we have no issue at all. As we speak, that document that was given to the party, there's not been any response to it. And for me, it's important to know that if we are serious about winning power in 2024, this eternal contest will be a test case for it. We need to be thorough. We need to respect opponents. We need to be able to do the right thing. And what else would Dr. Duffour do after exhausting all the internal structures of the party? Is to resort to legal to the court. And that is the only right thing to do. We are not going to demonstrate or be anti-party. We will use the law to correct whatever wrongs we've identified. So that's a summary of it.
Now, I have listened to your head of research and strategy, Kofi Kukubo. Yesterday, he had some interactions. But you say by the 4th of May. So you had the 220 available by the 4th of May?
Yes, that was last week, yeah.
Right. And per what I have heard, mention has been made of the fact that every step of the way, your team has been engaged in the meetings, and whatever deficits, so to speak, or whatever remains to be delivered. I mean, Deputy General Secretary Mustapha Gbande has been speaking on that. I listened to him engaging yesterday. You have been abreast of the information every step of the way. You don't have any information less than any other candidate does. Yet, instead of resolving this matter internally, you went to court, so to speak, to sabotage the process. Every step of the way, with the remaining numbers that are to be added to the album, you have been furnished with the information. So what exactly is the problem?
I find the question a bit curious, or the statement from the Deputy General Secretary a bit curious. If the other candidates are not interested, it does not make our concerns illegitimate. Are the concerns raised legitimate? I've given you the data. Did you respond to that? So if you brush it aside and make it look like we don't have a case, then what do you expect the candidate to do? What you are saying is that we have an incomplete register going to an election on Saturday. The incomplete register that was given us, we've looked at it, we've identified issues, we've given all the evidence, and I must emphasize, it's a 40-page document, region by region, itemizing whatever concerns we have. So that is the issue that Deputy General Secretary should be speaking to. No one intends to sabotage anything. As we speak with you, Dr. Duffour is not something we've been campaigning. So you're ready for the election. However, we will not just gloss over issues that need to be addressed. That is not going to happen. We need to do the right thing, and that's the only thing that's the right thing to do, and that will give us the credibility to even call the Electoral Commission to go into future elections should some of these things happen. So I really do not see the fight here, or the concerns raised should be addressed, then we all move on, build the party, win the election 2024, and be able to govern this country.
I don't think he disputes that, but he says that having given you the full breadth of information, every step of the way, you knew exactly what the processes were, today what will happen, tomorrow what will happen, ahead of Saturday, and that it's not as though the system has been opaque in terms of information flow. You know exactly how many have been delivered and how many are expected to be delivered, and that before D-Day, all of you are going to have this information. Did that not suffice? Did you have to go to court?
Let's draw attention to the issues raised. I'm not even talking about the remaining. I already told you we are working with the 220, but the issues raised with the register given us, are we even addressing it? That is where our focus should be. You've given us 220 constituencies, fine. We don't have all, and we are expecting the rest. However, the 220 you've given us, these are the issues we have with it, and we've given you that. Let me walk you through those issues again. The 220 constituencies that have been given us, we have identified that 54% of the delegates in the album list identities are yet to be verified.
Expand on that. What exactly do you mean? I noted that down. 54% without their identities established, 26% with other details missing and all of that. Give us a proper breakdown. When you say identity yet to be known or made clear, what exactly do you mean? I know it probably comes across as we can't identify them, but what exactly do you mean?
What we mean is that the names, every name on the photo album given us, we have to verify or audit it. In our audit, we've identified that 54% of the sum, the delegates in the photo album, identities are yet to be validated. Validated means either voter's ID, party card, photo, gender, polling station number, and these are serious issues. So if my name is in the register and I do not have, you find a name in the register and you do not have a polling station number attached to it, then where did the person register at? So these are concerns that we should be happy that Dr. Duffour has been identified and drawn our attention to. It should be legitimate error. Nobody is in our communication saying that somebody is deliberately doing something untoward. But we've identified these errors, the documents given us. Let's fix it and move into the election. How peaceful can you be? This is nothing to fight over. This is nothing to call people unorganized. This is nothing to call people anti-party. Actually, this is what the party needs. Because if you remember, we've had 2 general elections that the NDC, unfortunately, was unable to collect results. We've had elections, so it means that the process going to the election, we must police every stage of it. And that is what Dr. Duffour is doing. And this is certainly going to strengthen the party. Those who are sleeping on the job will have to do it. If these identities or errors identified are not legitimate, they should say so. So that is what we should be speaking to, and not issues that are irrelevant to the subject matter on the table. But the subject matter on the table is that 220 constituencies have been given us. We've identified errors. We've written to you. It's a 40-page document itemizing the errors region by region. That is what the party, Mustafa and Co, should be speaking to.
Are you disappointed that you're this close to the presidential primary and you're facing the hurdles that you say are prevalent ahead of Saturday? Are you disappointed?
I'm not disappointed. I'm just surprised. I'm surprised that we have an election 2 days and the party does not have the entire, in the real sense, we're even supposed to do exhibition. And again, another concern we raised to the party, the arbitrariness of the process. The party did say that there was not going to be any voter registration, exhibition, or what have you. But we realized that in K2 South and K2 North, they were undertaking voter registration, exhibition, and validation process. And that is part of the arbitrariness that we've identified. So, for me, I'm surprised. Some other people can be disappointed, but I'm surprised that a party that has been in power before and has been in opposition established 2 decades ago, some of these errors we are still encountering. But we are not deterred. It's a human institution. Errors will occur. We will fix it, and that is all we are doing.
Your head of research and strategy, again, I'm going to Kofi Kukubo. He had an interaction on Asempa FM yesterday, and he contended that a complete and accurate voter register was critical for ensuring that eligible voters were correctly enrolled, as well as preventing fraudulent activities such as multiple voting impersonation and being denied a vote on election day. These are serious allegations that are being made. Fraud, multiple voting, impersonation. In any election, and of course the Electoral Commission will oversee this, in any election, these can hamper whatever results emanate from that process. So I put it to you then, is Team Duffour scared that if some of these matters are not addressed, the primary could be rigged or marred? Is it a fear you have?
It's certainly not a fear. But what my colleague, Mr. Kukubo, said is a fact. It's not an allegation. If you have a voters register or our photo album that you suspect is not the right people are not on it, certainly people, if you have duplicated photos, names, what have you. These are things that question the credibility of the process. So it's important that we state that as a fact. It's not an allegation. And if we identified it, we clearly would have concerns. So the concerns is what we are hoping and praying that the party and everybody concerned will address. So the fact that we are raising concerns for it to be addressed does not mean there's any fear. We are ready for the election. Dr. Duffour is in Ashanti region campaigning. And but he will not be, he will not overlook errors that have been identified. No, that is not going to happen. If we identified errors, we all come together to fix it, and that's the only way we can move forward.
Let's look at something else. There are three other crucial areas I want us to look at, and then maybe we can cap off the conversation. Again, Mustafa Gbande says, look, Dr. Duffour is making, so to speak, a mountain out of a molehill. Plus, he should remember that he is not on the same level as, for example, another candidate who has served as president before. In fact, he intimates that Dr. Duffour does not have or carry the same influence as former President John Dramani Mahama to dictate how things should be handled. How do you react to that?
That's an unfortunate statement, but we can ignore it and forgive it. It should tell you the position.
Is it not the reality?
I did not as parents. Did the document that, or the guideline of the election, give preference to anyone? We are all supposed to succumb to the dictates of the election or the process. The guideline applies to all. So what he's saying is irrelevant, but it can be forgiven. All of them are aspirants. Unless they are telling me one is a better, what was the right word. One is, I mean, all of them are aspirants. So I really do not see the logic in that particular claim.
Where we've got to now, I mean, you look at members of parliament who have openly thrown their support behind former President Mahama. You look at big wigs in the party who have thrown their weights behind him, who have said that he is the person to save the party. I mean, just today, for example, we're showing how when he went to one of the northern regions, he was hailed and from municipal executives, well, not municipal executives, but parliamentary representatives of those areas, among others, the leadership of the party, regional executives, throwing their weight, so to speak, behind him. Some have said that on the back of all that and the defeat that your team sees to be looming large, you are doing all of this just to save face, as a face-saving enterprise. How true is that?
Did you hear them speak to the issues that have been raised?
We have spoken about the issues, but I'm asking you, is Team Duffour merely bringing this up because you know you are going to lose, and so you're trying to create some distraction so that when that happens, if it happens, you would be able to say, well, it's because of X, Y, and Z that we are not here?
My brother, everybody is free to support whoever you want to support. And you just made reference to a video from the North. You can also make reference to Dr. Duffour's campaign in the North and see the number of people that came out to support him. And, I mean, it's a democratic process. People have the right to support whoever they want to support. And former appointees or MPs supported the former president in the last election. The same fanfare was done, but we lost. What we as NDC need to be focusing on is winning power. And whatever it is that must be done to win power, we must do. So, whether one person is winning or losing, for me, is relevant. But I'm telling you today, Dr. Duffour is going to win the election if it's even done today. Because what's the president? We are having over 300,000 people voting. The people you are saying that former appointees or MPs form just 1% or 5% of it. Those who decide are the branch executives, and those are the focus. They are those you are interacting with. And not even saying that all former appointees support a particular candidate. That's not accurate. But for me, my issue is that we should be focusing on dealing with the current issue, which is the issues identified in the voters register provided the candidate. And it's interesting to note, and I welcome it, former President Mahama can also look at the voters register given them and see whether the concerns being raised are legitimate or not. And maybe you as a journalist should be asking them whether they've gone through the voters register that was given them and whether they've identified the errors that the Duffour team is speaking to. If they have, fine, then we all work together. If they haven't, then we can look at it again, audit it and see. That is what a serious party should be doing. So they should be interested in the conversation we are having now. Kojobo should be interested in the conversation we are having now. That
Are you surprised? Are you surprised? And it's interesting you bring him up. I was going to do that. Are you surprised that he has not, raised any issues on this? Not that I have heard. I've not heard a peep out of him. It is only Team Duffour. Are you surprised?
No, I should be honest with you. I mean, maybe they have raised. I don't speak for the team. Maybe they have raised.
No, but publicly, we do not have any such, information. That's what I'm saying. You have come out into the public space.
It could be their strategy. I don't speak for the teams. I really cannot make any suggestions. But my focus is my candidate becoming the leader, and we are working towards it. So, as whether I'm being surprised by another candidate's approach or not is immaterial, really. The focus is the concerns raised, whether they have identified things, and whether they agree that we should postpone the election, correct these errors, and move into the election stronger so that the outcome will be acceptable by all. So the focus is identifying the issues, dealing with the issues that have been identified with the voters register given, even though it's incomplete.
The substance of the matter, the meat of it, will be addressed by your party. We are not here to address that. And you've taken the matter to court. We'll be talking about that bit as well. But just on the point I made earlier about the support that has been thrown behind the former president, John Mahama, I heard one of the representatives, in the locality, I have to get his name, say that this will be based on experience, not experiment, where experiment will be the likes of Dr. Duffour and Kojobonsu, and experience would be the likes of former President Mahama, who has been at post. That was the suggestion. So I ask you, when you say categorically that Dr. Kwabena Duffour is going to win the primary, even if you hold it today, is that being realistic? Just tell us, what is the fervor, the groundswell of support that you have had that gives you the backing to say this? Maybe we could go back to what Sir John says, fear delegates. Maybe that could happen. But should your campaign lose, what would be the reaction? You're so certain that you'll win.
I'm very certain we'll win because we do have a good message. And the welfare of the party, the state of the party is what is central to Dr. Duffour's present flag bearership race. Certainly that approach is going to different movements. If he becomes the leader, we'll be looking at national issues. Why would anyone move into a contest without expectation to win? So I find the question a bit, Dr. Duffour is in this race to win.
Antonio, I get the point you're making. You definitely, as a member of the team, you'll not be going in thinking of losing, but there is aspiration and there is also reality. Some have said that the reality is that what is going to pan out is not going to be dissimilar from what we've seen in the last few primaries. If you go as far back as Atta Mills and the great numbers by which he won, even against former First Lady Nana Akufo-Addo Agyeman Rawlings, among others that we've seen go toe-to-toe with former presidents. It's just the trend, isn't it?
It's not a trend. And why is it not a trend? This is the first time, in my opinion, and again, the evidence is there, that the NDC is having an actual contest, that one candidate is ready, battle ready, and his message is one that identifies with the grassroots or the base of the party. Dr. Duffour, again, is not one that will take these kind of decisions lightly. I mean, on a lighter note, can you explain how Liverpool scored Manchester United 7-0? It's a contest, it's a competition. And everything is, I mean, if the former president thought it was a foregone conclusion, he would probably not be campaigning. So one thing you should know is that it's a contest, anything can happen, and the delegates know who they want to lead them. So we should just do the right thing, allow a fair playing ground, and go into the election, whatever outcome it is, everyone will accept it and be happy to come together to build a party. But I'm telling you today that Dr. Duffour is going to win should the election be held today. Because those that matter are those he's engaging, which is the grassroots of the party, the branch executives and the council executives. And the issues he's bringing to them are issues that they've lived. How can a party that has been in government before and in opposition, 30 years in existence, not have constituency offices? Most constituencies we've traveled to do not have offices. How can a party that established a very good initiative like the Heroes Fund not be able to sustain it? and collapses after the demise of Professor Mills. How can the party that has elders or cadres of the party who have sacrificed to build this party for us not be concerned about their welfare? How can the party have executives who are not properly motivated? I mean, Dr. Duffour is the only politician in this country that has brought in the project called the Hunter Project. This is a micro business for every constituency in this country, comprising of 4 big canopies, 100 chairs, and a sound system for them to rent at their localities for outdoor events, get money for the party to be able to run party affairs. He's interested in making the party economically viable. He's spoken about looking at the models of ANC, South Korea, parties in South Korea, where parties have investments. So we do not burden or go for money from rich individuals who end up hijacking government like we experienced in the past and now. So this is somebody who is talking about the things that matter.
All right.
Talking about having food buffer stock in each region so that people, the schools, police, military will be able to have food, so the food will not be rotten by the roadside.
Antonio, hold for me. This is going to be of mutual benefit to both of us.
I'll have to go at the point.
I know, but it's just important. You've made a number of points. Guess what? We're joined by a member of the legal team of the NDC, Abraham Amaliba. I just want him to share the party's thoughts on this, because on the back of that, I'm going to ask you, the party's executive seems to be calling your bluff. The primary is going to be held anyway, regardless of the court process. So I just want his take quickly on that, and I'll come to you on this move by the national executive or the party's leadership. Mr. Amaliba, a very good morning to you, sir.
Morning to you and to your viewers.
Thank you so much for joining the conversation. You've heard Antonio and some of the claims that have been made in terms of the album, in terms of information sharing, in terms of party offices across the country, non-existent ones, but specifically on the back of the claims that have been made. For example, out of the 220 constituencies, or so to speak, that have been furnished with, that have been given to them in terms of the details, 54% of delegates' identity are yet to be identified, so to speak, identities. 26% of some of their data is missing. I mean, it's a whole list of problems that you face ahead of Saturday, May the 13th. How are you addressing this? How did we get here where you couldn't identify these problems up to this point? And what are you going to be able to do ahead of Saturday to furnish the candidates with the information?
Thank you. This election, just like other elections held in the party, are regulated by guidelines. The guidelines do not talk about photo albums. The guidelines talks about the list of delegates who should be made available to the aspirants after the vetting. This delegates list was made available to the aspirants way back in March. So you see that they are not talking about that one at all. Their focus is on the party album or the delegates album or whatever it is. But this was an initiative of the party to enhance transparency. Now, they complain about the fact that as at yesterday or as at last Monday, they were not in possession of the full complement of the photo album. If they had attended a meeting yesterday, which they were invited but they failed to attend, the full complement of the voter register, the album, would have been made available to them. So on this call, the party has not flouted any regulations, because the regulations don't talk about photo album. It talks about delegate list, which has been made available to them way back in March.
Are you now telling? Okay, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Now you talk about discrepancies. This happens. It's it's a common place. When these things happen, we invite the aspirants into a meeting with the elections committee. And while that meeting is taking place or is going on, there's somebody who is sitting with a computer and then the corrections are inserted. This was a meeting that would have happened yesterday, but they abandoned the meeting and ran to court. So it is not as if when you are doing such an exercise, which covers about 356,624 delegates. Our delegates are 365, or 356 rather, 356, 624. There will definitely be some challenges, but what normally happens is for all the consensus or their representatives to come and sit with the election directorate, and then these corrections are made. You don't need to go to court on this. So that's my submission on this matter. They have other issues which to me, they got it all wrong.
Like which ones?
They say that the register is bloated by 7,000 delegates, that the register has more than 7,000 people inside who are not eligible to vote. You know what they did? Because we have 9 branches, nine executives in each branch of the party. They just took the 9,999 in each branch and multiplied them by the number of polling stations we have, without including constituency executives who are eligible to vote, without including regional executives who are eligible to vote, without including national executives who are to vote, without including Mr. Dr. Duffour himself, former government appointees who are supposed to vote, the MPs who are supposed to vote. So if they had actually done that very well, the register would have been bloated, and this bloated is inverted comma, it's in quotes. It would have actually been bloated by 9,000. Because all those people come up to 9,000, then you add the branch executive. So how can you do that and come out and say that the register has been bloated when you left out a chunk of those who are supposed to vote? How can you do that to yourself?
So as of now, regardless of the legal impediment posed by this suit against the process, this stay on the process in court, the NDC is going full steam ahead, gearing up for Saturday. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, so what we are doing is to use the rules of court that allow for such things to happen, where this matter will be heard before Saturday. So we are exploring the use of legal instruments within the confines of the law to ensure that this matter is heard before Saturday. And you know that they have fixed this matter for 15th. 15th is way ahead of Saturday. But we are also trying to see how we can, within the law, ensure that the matter is heard before Saturday.
Antonio is a spokesperson for the Duffour team. He is on the other line. Antonio, you have heard the reaction of the Director of Legal Affairs at the NDC, Abraham Amaliba. What is your reaction to some of what he has said? He is basically saying you got it all wrong, to quote him, and he is also, I mean, clearly the party is calling Team Duffour's bluff. How do you react to that?
Thank you, and good morning to Amaliba. I don't think he's calling the party bluff. The Team Duffour's bluff. I did heard him correctly, but he did not, rubbish the consent rate. He's only talking about processes, and I'm pretty sure as a lawyer, the court is his friend, and anyone that goes to court is not any anti-institution. And I'm happy to hear him say that the party is working towards the court hearing the matter before Saturday. He's never denied or speak to the issue of duplicated photos or the duplicated voters ID or any other. He's just sticking to the bloated issues. But even that, you require that we set auditors and we can all be satisfied. So I'm happy he did not say we didn't have any concerns. He admitted that we have concerns, but he comes to the table to talk. But I just state that we've written to the party on 2 occasions and never got a response, April 17th and May 2nd. So the issues are what we should be focusing on. And when we are satisfied, we move into the election, the outcome, everybody will be happy with it. So I'm happy with the actions of the party that they are working towards the court hearing the case before Saturday. Dr. Duffour is ready for the election, but whatever it is that needs to be done, he will insist that that is done. That's all.
Right before I take your final comments, both of you, just a quick one, Antonio, just a very quick one. For those who are watching the feed this morning, I've seen some messages dropping through. Fidelis Abelba, together with one Walter Blinks. They both, I do not know whether they are delegates, but they both suggest that by these actions, you are making the base of the party, the grassroots, angry, and that they are going to punish you on primary day. How do you react to that?
Why should the base of the party be angry when what is happening is just due process? They should be excited that due process is happening. So the party did go to court when we're not happy. And that is something that they should be interested in having a credible election and having voters register that everyone who is supposed to vote gets to vote. How would they feel if they go to the polling station and their names are not in the register? So what is happening now is actually good for the party, good for the NDC, and good for the democracy of this country. So we all should be embracing it and welcoming it.
Antonio, final words as I take Abraham Amalibe's final words as well. I'll start with you, Antonio.
Thank you. Dr. Duffour's team is committed to using the party structures. I've given evidence of him using the party structures, and he's just calling for the right thing to be done. The concerns raised in the document sent to the party, identifying the anomalies, need to be addressed. All of us be satisfied, and we move into elections, happy with the outcome that Dr. Duffour is elected leader of the party and subsequently leader of the country.
Thank you, Antonio. Antonio Edem Asinyo is spokesperson for Team Kwabena Duffour. Abraham Amaliba is Director of Legal Affairs at the NDC. Abraham, any final words?
Yes, I'm happy you have read messages from delegates who are livid. I've received calls.
I cannot confirm. I merely suggested that I did not know whether these were delegates, but
yes.
The suggestion from both of them is that this move is angering the grassroots.
Well, I can confirm to you because I've received calls from delegates all over the country. My last call came from Sandema, and they are livid. I'm not surprised that those texters are saying that clearly the number of votes that Dr. Duffour will have garnered will be reduced by this action that he has taken. This is not in the best interest of the party. For you to file a frivolous and a vexatious research as this, just to thwart the effort of the party in its forward march, it's mind-boggling, particularly when it's coming from a very senior member of the party who should have known better.
Abraham Amaliba, we're grateful for your time this morning, sir.
Thank you.
He is Director of Legal Affairs with the NDC. Well, do stay with us. When we return from the break, we're going to be having AM business. Of course, throwing the spotlight one more time on the construction sector. That's a conversation we're yet to have today on the back of all these high-rise buildings that seem to be crumbling to dust. What exactly is happening? All of that after the break. Do stay.